Um, I wouldn't say that he was bipolar. He seemed sad at times. There were times when you could just tell that there was a sadness, but not necessarily. Of course, if you would have asked me what bipolar disorder was when I was in junior high or high school, I likely would have been like, huh? I had no idea. But I wouldn't say bipolar, no. I would say just sadness, like maybe like depression type sadness. Um, no, I don't want to say I noticed anything different right away. Um, I would say that at the end of freshman year, that was a rough time for both of us. And it was just, I think it was a turning point. And then after that, with college, that's when he started smoking, um, drinking more, like telling me he was going out to parties drinking, um, like skipping classes that he wasn't doing before. Like little, not they're not little, but things of that nature, like um, very paranoid at times. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
how?
I think it got worse as the years progressed in school, like skipping more, not caring as much, just kind of, just not, just could have cared less about classes, about a lot of just different things. Like he just didn't care. It seemed at times.
How
Well, he was sleeping during the day. Like he was up all night watching movies and or up all night smoking and just coming up with artistic ideas with the friends that he's made on the like for the first 2 years he was in a dorm and he was on a like an honors floor and a lot of those people had artistic tendencies. They were very, like his roommate Jason was very artistic. They were like two peas in a pod. But like they just like they'd be up all night doing all kinds of stuff, and then obviously too tired to go to class during the day. He just he got to a point where like um, almost like he was high. That's the word you're looking for, like high, like high on life, high things were good, high blah blah blah. I'm gonna be this great artist. I'm gonna be this blah blah blah. I'm gonna do this, and there were different things that he would tell me about going off on this tangent, that tangent, different things. There were times it could be very frustrating to live with someone who you didn't know that had bipolar disorder. Um, there'd be times that he insisted we stay up until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, no matter how tired I was or how I just was exhausted or just kind of overwhelmed. It didn't matter. Like to him, he was wide awake. He wanted to do what he wanted to do, and there were times where it was, let's get in the car and drive to Florida. Let's just we'll go down there. We'll go to the ocean and come right back. And we'll take the weekend to do it or um, things like that. But then there were also times where he was so down and so like he would say things like. Wouldn't your life be easier if I just took this car and ran? Like, not with me in the car, but he would point to a car or cars or whatever and say, wouldn't your life be easier if I just took this car and like smashed it into a tree? Or I just went into the lake or things of that nature. And my, eyes would go wide and be like, stop talking that way. Um, and then there were times where things were normal, like just like any other married couple. It was just normal. It was just you know, doing things together. Going to our friends' weddings, doing, hanging out with friends, and um, but I think the the manic side that I know is now manic side, that was almost as hard to deal with as the depression side because there was no stopping it. There was no like no when I say no stopping it, meaning Like, no matter how much I'd be like, we're not getting in the car, drive to Florida. I don't understand why you don't want to get in the car, drive to Florida. It's no big deal. And that whole like non-understanding about, yes, I'm aware that we're not guaranteed tomorrow, but it was like this obsession of like, there is no tomorrow. We have to do this now. And you're going to regret this if we don't drive to Florida. Or just all around different things of that nature. Like I keep saying that, but that wasn't just one time. It happened frequently. Like he would ask to go to Florida or go to Boston or whatever. I think the depression part was the worst before he got diagnosed when we moved to New Mexico. And a friend offered a job out there to work on a movie. And so we picked up our lives, 2 cars, 2 dogs, and drove cross country to New Mexico, and it ended up being a disaster in a sense. I don't regret going in a sense, but for him, it was full on depression mode after that for a long time. Like, it was very hard for him to get out of that mold, because not only did he felt like he lost a dream, he lost his best friend, he lost like, he felt like everyone was saying, told you so, nothing, you'll never amount to anything, or I told you this wasn't going to happen, I told you that this was just a crack dream, or whatever. And that wasn't it. It wasn't anything that we did wrong. It just so happened that it sucked. And I mean, it was a depression mode, like a big depression mode. And I would say that's probably one of the most trying times for us, was when that happened. When I can't understand, like if I don't understand something, and or I'm not getting it, and I don't mean like intelligent wise, I mean I'm not getting it because it's full on mania or something of that nature. And he's on this tangent of some kind of, with regards to, I don't know, a project or something. Like, I just remember this, I think it was this past summer. um, he was on the deck with a friend, and it was a fire pit, and I was cold, and he was just on this roll with different things, and I just was like, I needed like just needed a minute just to get away or whatever. And it was like he full on like yelled about how I don't get it. And it was, I mean, it was yelling at me. And typically he does not yell at me. It's not I'm a yeller. I'm the yell person. And so when he's yelling at me and basically telling, like, I don't want to say it wasn't a degrading thing. It was more like, how could you not understand this, and not fully grasping what it was. And it just threw me for a complete loop. That he slammed the door, and I was left dumbfounded. I wasn't I mean, I didn't get it. I mean, I knew what was going on in his mind with regards to bipolar, meaning that it was an episode. But sometimes it's not easy to separate the um, what's going on in someone's head that they can't control with regards to bipolar, and just having your feelings hurt in a sense. Um, that was hard, very hard, because I sobbed. I just sobbed and sobbed, and I don't really cry. I mean, I'm a crier sometimes, but that was hard. I think that's when it hurts the most, when he knows, and he's in his manic phases, and he thinks that I should have the same mindset as him, or that I should want to do all these massive, creative, and great things. And I love that that's what he wants to do. I think it's great. I think I try to encourage it, because I know he needs that, and it's important to him. But I'm never, ever going to have the level of, um, I'm never going to have that level of um, want to the necessity to do something that he has, because my brain isn't wired that way. And I think that's hard for him sometimes, to think that I should be able to understand and I should be able to get it, but I don't get it. He doesn't really say hurtful things when he's sad. he says more hurtful things about himself, which also hurts me. Um, I know that, just like anything, if you love someone and you're in love with someone, because there's a difference. When you're in love with someone and they're hurting, you want everything in your power to try to not make them hurt. So you're hurting. So he's not purposely trying to hurt me when he's sad or depressed or when he's been suicidal. I know that's not what he's trying to do. He's not trying to hurt me. If anything, his mindset at those times is um, to not hurt me. He's thinking that if he were gone, that my life would be so much easier and that life would be better. And so that hurts when he's in those type of things. But he's not meaning to hurt me, but it does. If we're having an argument and I'll be like, I just at this point I'll be, as we've been going round and round, I'll be like, I've had enough. I've had enough. And he immediately will jump to, well, if you had enough, then you need to leave. You should go. And, I don't know why. You're better off. And I'll be like, that's not what I was trying to say at all. I'm just saying that I've had enough of this conversation right now, this very minute. I need a time out and give me a chance to whatever. Not that I'm ready to pack my bags and leave. Um, I know that some people probably think that that's the easiest way to live. Like I would think that um, people who probably listened to us or we've talked to or people who don't fully understand what he goes through on a daily basis would probably think, sure, my life might be easier or whatever if I did leave, but I would be lost, contrary to what he may think that I would be. I am a strong person. I don't make it sound that way, but when it comes to him, I'd be lost. Contrary, I'm lost. I know why it happens. Because there's the delusion that you don't need it because you're feeling normal, or you're feeling that when you're on that hypomanic manic phase, the way mainly like the hypomanic, like when you're hypo and romantic, um, he's uh, he has the delusion that I don't need it now. Like I'm good. Like I can manage this without medication. Like I totally can be normal when I need to be normal. Be high when I want to be high. Be low when I want to be low. Like we all have their as with someone who's not bipolar like myself. We still become sad and we get real happy. But we don't experience the real happy of a mania, and we certainly don't experience the low of a suicide type low when you're like normal. I'm not saying you can't feel suicidal thoughts. I'm just saying that you're not going on this roller coaster ride when you're, normal. I'm not normal, but normal. He loves hypomania. He'll tell you. He'll be the first person to tell you that he likes hypomania. That he can get things done, things get accomplished. He can just work, 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 work. The last time he had a real hypomanic thing, he wrote he finished almost his whole novel, like in like days time. Like just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote, and I mean it was like a man on a mission, like doing that, and so yeah, hypomania. He loves hypomania because you feel like you can't be stopped. Your creativity's flowing, he says, and I can tell his creativity's flowing when he's hypomanic, and even when he's on the medicine, it's still experiencing. It's just not as like it's. You can still go like this fast, but the medicine kind of keeps you more balanced.
call me back right now. I just called 2 hospitals, and they told me you were there as a patient, so you need to call me now, please, please, please. I'm not going to be able to go to work, so forget it. You need to call me, please, please, please call me as soon as you get the message, please, please, please. End of message.
Can you tell us what that was about?
Sure. I woke up one morning, I believe it was July of 2012, and I woke up and I had this cryptic text message that was on my phone from my husband, and basically telling me that my life would be better off without him. He was going to take his own life. He already had a plan in place. He was saying goodbye, telling me to pretty much tell Cameron that he loved him, and that he thought that he may try to go to the hospital to see if he can prevent himself from actually committing suicide. I called the hospital. I couldn't. No one could tell me if he was there. They said they didn't have a patient, but so I assumed he wasn't there. I then called his mom to see if she could drive. I had Cameron, so I couldn't just leave. Call to see if she could go over to the hospital to see if the car was there or something, anything. And she said that she had a message too. And so in the meantime, she was going to call me back. She was going to get in the car and go to the hospital to see if his car was there. And in the meantime, I would have to say that out of my entire existence, which is a mere 37 years, those 15 minutes, 20 minutes of trying to find him were the most excruciating minutes of my life. And I gave birth, and epidural wore off, so I know what pain feels like. That was by far the most painful 20 minutes I've ever endured in my life, ever. Not knowing if he was true, if he was gone, if he, they give you this, people give you this crap about, I could feel that he was not gone. I'm telling you, that's bullshit, because you can feel nothing. You feel nothing. So don't let anyone tell you, and I read a lot of books, it's bullshit, because that's bullshit, I'm telling you. I felt nothing because I was in so much pain that I couldn't have felt anything other than that. I didn't, that was horrid. It was absolutely horrid. But in the meantime, between his mom going to look and waiting, because I had to get my son up and get him ready to go, and not knowing if I was going to have to explain to a 3-year-old or 4-year-old at the time, where that daddy's gone. I didn't know if it was going to be gone permanently, and how do you explain that? How do you explain that to a little boy who worships his daddy? All these things were in my head, and it was so painful. And when I saw his cell phone was calling me back, I was terrified that it wasn't him, that it was somebody telling me they found his phone or something. So when I heard his voice, I felt such relief. And then in the next second, I was so mad at him for putting me through that. But I was also, I was mad, but I was more relieved than anything. And I found out where he was, and He was at the hospital. He got there. Thankfully, do he didn't do what he planned. He went to the hospital and told them what he was planning on doing, and they had him in the emergency room. So that's where I went. My logic side knows that it's a disease. I mean, logically, I know that. I'm a very intelligent woman. Um, I know. I've done my research. I know what bipolar does. I know that, even on meds, there still can happen of suicide and depression. But I'm not going to lie and sit here and make it sound like I don't oftentimes think it's something I've done or said or didn't do or didn't say or didn't give or, um, I mean, I think that's human nature. And I think when you're in love with someone, that you're looking for ways to see if it was something you did to cause the pain. So logic, Shannon, knows that it's the bipolar disorder, the disease, but the emotional side of Shannon sometimes doesn't recognize that. Positive in the sense of anyone who I I can sometimes you don't see things yourself sometimes so clearly, but other people will point it out to you and then you see it. Anyone who will watch Bill and I, and if we're in a room together and say we're just, even when we're not standing next to each other, we're somewhere else. I've been told that his eyes follow me everywhere, and I feel like the positive part of the bipolar disorder is it makes him love more than he'll always say something like, "No, I love you more." I'll be like, "No, I love you more." And then he'll say, "No, that's not really possible for you to love me more." And as much as I like to argue with him, he's right because he can love me more because of the synapses and the things in his brain, but he truly, truly, truly loves me more than I love him because he can, because his mind allows that with the bipolar disorder. And if you read up on bipolar disorder, you'll understand how that's possible. A lot of people have addictions to drugs, addictions to alcohol, can't hold down a job, they're promiscuous, and I can tell you that my husband's addiction is me. And I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back or make myself feel better, but I think that his addiction is me. And so when you have an addiction, you love it more than you love anything else. And so he does love me more, but don't tell him I told you that. It's not easy. It's not, if you're looking for the fairy tale romance of Cinderella. Um, the Prince Charming comes in, sweep you off your feet, everything's perfect, hunky dory, not happening. Although people who don't suffer from bipolar disorder in relationships, it's not perfect. You're just going to have to work a lot harder. You have to be more understanding. You kind of have to let things understand that sometimes it's not their fault how they're feeling. Try not to blame yourself. Um, but if you truly are in love with someone, truly 100%, not just that you love them and that you're going along in life because that's what you're supposed to do, because you're supposed to fall in love and be with someone. If you are truly in love with someone, because there is a difference. I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. There is a difference from just loving someone and being in love with someone. And when you are in love with someone, you will do what it takes to make it work. You will work it out. You will do what you need to do, not without struggles, not without heartache, not without pain, but also with all those things. There's joy and there's love and there's compassion and there's empathy and there's all of these beautiful feelings that you'll get to feel if you're in love with someone. And the someone with bipolar disorder is going to show you some things that you probably never thought you'd ever see in your life, or do for that matter. But I'm just going to keep stressing, if you are in love with someone who has bipolar disorder, you need to just work it out and be there for them and show them that you're not going anywhere. Give them the assurance that they need. Give them the love that they need. Tell them when you can. Don't just take for granted that saying I love you is enough. Sometimes it's, showing them, and not just in physical ways, just let them know in a little word or a little note or whatever. But you just have to give them the reassurance that they will give you. It's not easy. It's work. But like I said, if you're in love with someone, it's worth the effort. It's worth the work. My advice would be to make sure that if you're in love with someone with bipolar disorder, I help Bill with meds. I do my best to divvy them out and make sure that he's taking them. Not being a nurse, because sometimes that's what I hear. You're not my nurse. It's not about being a nurse. It's about loving that person and wanting to care for them and doing what you can for them. So if helping them make sure they take their meds, then that's what you do. And if you have people, or you can't depend on anybody else. I know this may sound awful, but if you have each other, and you don't have to depend on other people. If you have people you can depend on, that's great, like family or friends. Try to get a community of people, meaning people that love you unconditionally, and people who will have your back no matter what. And I think Bill and I have found those people in life, and if you haven't, and you're alone, but you're really not alone, you have other people around you, just do what you can to make them happy and yourself happy.